10 years ago, I went to a new dentist here in Nashville and went through the whole routine, had zero cavities, which was awesome. But he told me just in passing that I had shovel teeth. And I was like, excuse me? He's like, you have shovel teeth. And I didn't really get any more information than that. I think I just was kind of like, oh, okay, thank you, sir. and then I went home and I was trying to figure out what the heck are shovel teeth. So shovel-shaped incisors are a particular kind of a tooth. They have a curved, hollow back that resembles, well, a shovel. I was asking my husband about his teeth because, teeth are weird. You're used to how your teeth feel in your mouth. I guess I never thought about there being variations on that. I mean, obviously there's different kinds of teeth, but I asked him, well, when you put your tongue like against the back of your teeth, don't you feel it curving? He's like, no, it's totally flat and straight. I'm like, no way. Nobody has flat teeth like that. And he was like, yeah, mine are flat. What is remarkable about these is it's such an ancient trait that connects us to some of the first people who walked across the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia, what is now Siberia, into North America. So these early migrants carried with them not just their tools and their cultures, but also the genes that shaped their teeth. So today, these shovel-shaped incisors are still common among Native American and Asian populations. This isn't just a story, though, about ancient migrations. I talk about family stories on this channel, American identity, ancestry. So these teeth are also the story of people who make up America today, like myself, people whose identities are complex and layered and often defy easy categorization. So consider the Melungeons, for example. I've done a couple videos exploring Melungeon heritage and my ties to that community. So the Melungeons are a group that has intrigued and baffled historians for generations. Who are they? Where did they come from? They've been described as a triracial community with European, African, and Native ancestry. And there was a story that I came across, and this is how I started piecing together the shovel teeth and the Melungeon heritage that I seemed to have connection to, but didn't really know much about it. So growing up in Hancock County, Tennessee, and I live here in Nashville, Wayne Winkler didn't know much about the Melungeons. He just knew his family had roots in the area and that there were stories about a mysterious group of people who didn't quite fit the usual racial categories. So I am reading from an article called "The Past is Written on Your Face." And it said his parents moved to Detroit from the South in the 1950s. But each summer when he was a child, he would return to Hancock County to visit his father's family. And he saw a newspaper article that jumped out at him, and it said, quote, "One of the most fascinating mysteries in Tennessee lore concerns the unknown origins of the Melungeons." And it began describing them as, quote, "a dark-skinned people who some romantics compared in appearance to Othello." And Othello is a Shakespearean character. So as a boy, Wayne gets excited about this romantic, mysterious group of people. So he asked his father about them. Later, after his father refused to give any details, his mother divulged, it says, that his paternal grandmother was in fact Melungeon, so his dad's mom. And it goes on to say, quote, "which means your dad is Melungeon," she said, "which means you're Melungeon." And he said he had assumed that his family was mostly Indian based on how they looked and how they described themselves. And when he asked why he had always identified his background as Native American and not Melungeon, this is what his father said. His father said, quote, "Everybody knows what an Indian is. It takes all day to explain what a Melungeon is." So the connection here for me was this article goes on to talk about shovel teeth. There's the rub. The Melungeons were and are, for most of their history, a mystery, even to themselves. And I think that's true of a lot of people that have that multi-layered, mixed heritage identity here in the United States or wherever you are. These teeth are more than just bones in our mouth. They're like time capsules, preserving a record of ancient migrations and family connections. Today, you can still find shovel-shaped incisors in many Native American and Asian populations, which I think is interesting. So the story doesn't end there, though. The teeth connect us not just to the distant past, but to specific communities that have long intrigued historians and anthropologists alike. Take the Melungeons, for example. a group that has been described as one of the most mysterious and misunderstood in American history. And I will go on to say one of the most important parts of the American story. If you learn the Melungeon story, you come to understand why our country is the way that it is, because the Melungeon experience straddles the British colonial rule here and post-revolutionary era, and you see these changes happening in this microcosm of this triracial community. For centuries, the origins of the Melungeons have been debated. Were they Native American, European, African descent, mixed European and runaway enslaved people? What we do know, though, are that many Melungeons do have those shovel teeth, those shovel-shaped incisors, a trait that strongly suggests significant Native American heritage. Richard Scott, who's an anthropologist at the University of Reno at Nevada, pointed out that 98% of Native Americans have this trait, making it a key marker in tracing their ancestry. Now, I don't know how he came up with that. His credentials sound pretty good, but I don't know how he comes up with that number, what that testing looked like. But that's a pretty significant. I mean, 98%, right? So the connection to the Melungeons opens a fascinating chapter in the story of American identity. The truth, as is often the case in history, is likely a complex blend of all of the theories that come with the Melungeon story. But the shovel-shaped incisors offer a tangible clue, a direct link to Native lineage, the people who were among the first to call this land home. So what's remarkable to me is how these teeth, which I think can be so easily overlooked just in general, can provide a window to our past that goes beyond the written record. And as a historian, a trained historian, a history teacher by trade, I love the written record. I love the primary sources, but I love when we can even go beyond that and go beyond the written record and go to oral stories or go to other markers that we can look at to kind of help fill in the blanks. I think it reminds us that our identities are not just shaped by the stories we tell or the names that we carry, but by the very physical traits we inherit. And it's not just Melungeons who carry this legacy. These teeth are also found in other groups across the Americas and Asia, linking them to that same ancient migration. I think for those of us who study American identity or study our own family story, these kinds of connections are particularly important, meaningful, moving. I think it forces us to look beyond the surface and consider the hidden, deeper layers, and maybe even looking at our identity and our family stories as a prism. And when you look through a prism, you look this way, the light hits differently than when you look this way. And, I love Ancestry.com. I love looking at my DNA test updates, even though I also hate it. But bringing all of this in, bringing that information, bringing the stories bringing your DNA test, bringing the paper trail. What about your teeth? We need to look more holistically when we're studying our family story, our American identity, and the history that we tell ourselves. When we're exploring the origins of traits or what they point to, like shovel-shaped teeth, we're not just learning biology. We are uncovering the lived experiences of generations who came before us, who we're connected to forever. Teeth, our bones, our very DNA, they all carry the story of those who walked the earth long before us and who had to exist for us to be here. And to go back to the article with Wayne Winkler, he said, quote, "For him, celebrating Melungeon identity or parsing who is or who is not an authentic member of the group is less important than the perspective that he gains from seeing his part in an expansive ancestral puzzle despite its missing pieces. Quote, it's who I am because it's who my father was," he says. "To be able to stand up in front of a group of people and say that I'm the descendant of a Melungeon, a term full of baggage that my grandmother was taught to keep quiet about. I'm content with that." And if you'd like to see any of the other videos I've done researching my Melungeon roots and the Melungeon story here in the United States, I'd love to have you join me on those. I'll leave a link on the screen and below. Otherwise, we'll talk soon.